This is Talking My Walking. I am Rodrigo Ribeiro, and today I'm going to talk about free lunches and meritocracy. Free lunches and meritocracy are two concepts widely exploited for political purposes, especially in the right side of the political spectrum, but also by others. Everybody understands that it is unfair to enjoy the benefits of what other people produce and give nothing in return. That is very simple to understand, but that is also very easy to weaponize, very easy to use to manipulate people, and this is exactly what we need. That's what we need to understand when politicians, and not only politicians, but ideologues and other people use this purpose for to protect or to advance agendas, hidden agendas or not so hidden, or hidden, I don't know, you have to excuse my English. But because otherwise we are the prey. We are the ones being deceived and used and abused. And this matters. This matters a lot. Communicating is framing. We can exaggerate, we can omit, for whatever reason. Framing is how we communicate, intentionally or not, because not all the time we try to manipulate people. So there is also manipulation by unintentional manipulation, let's put it this way. But this is important to understand, because perception, how we perceive ourselves, how we relate with each other, how we perceive the world and other living beings and the cosmos and everything else is influenced, is conditioned by these frames, by the way we frame, by the way not we frame, but by the way the world is framed, the reality is framed for us, not by us. That's the point. We believe that we frame things. Okay, we have a certain percentage of freedom to do it because we are conscious beings, but most of the framing is done by others, again, intentionally or not, and then that influences how we perceive the world, and of course how we behave, how we establish priorities, how we choose, how we decide, and everything else. And that is important also in the today's subject, which is free lunches and meritocracy, because we often by allowing ourselves to buy into certain ideological narratives, which are again framed, so they are not they are not absolute truths, Okay, they want, the narratives always want us to picture. All narratives are ideological. Okay, there we always there is always ideas behind ideas and concepts and philosophical views behind everything we communicate, even shallow. What seems to be shallow, and it is shallow, but nevertheless it spreads ideas. And that's why it is important to have a conscious analysis, to reflect on these things, to establish, to understand the relations, how really they influence us, how really we become, our identity, what we believe we are, our political choices and other kinds of choices we supposedly make are independent, are autonomous, and they are not, and we need to know it. We need to be aware of it all the time, not only circumstantially. And we need to develop a culture that helps us to develop these skills, these intellectual skills. Not free lunches. I'm going to repeat it again. They are, especially when the free lunches are become systemic, which means that they become a part of a group, or individuals, or groups, or organizations, or corporations, or whoever, or whatever, become they get free lunches and they normalize the free lunches for themselves, and they believe they are entitled to it, which is a very important point. When the people, individuals, groups, corporations, organizations, or whoever believe they are entitled to the free lunches, they will not call it free lunches, but that's not the point. The point is how we describe the definition of free lunches, which is undeserved, whatever you have that is not deserved. It might be a lunch, it might be clothing, it might be housing, it might be whatever you have, whatever you enjoy without deserving it. That's why there is an association with meritocracy, with merit. But this is why also it is delusional, because most of what think it's merit or is achieved by merit, it's also a lie. It's an illusion. It's not real. Because the people or the organizations that look like they have achieved certain objectives by merit, it was because they are playing in a rigged system. They have the advantages of playing in a rigged game with rigged rules that benefit them. But if they can hide it, if they can have the legal system to protect them and the moral code to glorify them, we might believe, or we might be led to believe, that they have the merit. But they are the ones that are getting undeserved free lunches. We cannot dissociate freedom from language manipulation. And we can never be free without understanding that we are, the system we have which means these societies, caste-based societies, with hierarchies that are supposedly based on merit, okay, which is not because it's a total lie, but this is the part of the truth. They use it in order to build the narratives to justify the exploitation and inequality and the free lunches they do enjoy without and then they deny, they reflect, they project this into us. They use the minority of citizens that eventually take advantage of some loopholes of the system, of the welfare system, okay? Because these people are usually they are against the welfare system, the collective well-being, and they try to use the examples that might be real. I'm not saying that they are fictional, but they have to use a minority that exploits the loopholes, and they say that it cannot go on because these people don't want to work. These people are looking always for free lunches and this and that. And of course, those of us who work hard and have very little, we sometimes, or more times than we should, more often than we should, we just get emotional about it. We just okay, this is true. Why should I don't enjoy this? I have to work hard, and these people don't work and they get these free lunches. I have an old belief that I used to follow. I mean, I believe it's true, which goes like that. We need information in order to acquire knowledge. We need knowledge in order to acquire understanding, comprehensive understanding. And therefore, that might give us with time, some wisdom. That's what I believe. But information by itself is not enough to acquire knowledge, or in other words, we might acquire and accumulate wrong knowledge, which is worse than ignorance. Because when we don't know, we don't know. But when we know fallacious and incorrect and fictitious knowledge, we build an identity, a sociocultural identity that is a lie, that is deceptive, that transforms us into a tool for some whatever group or person or ideological system. And it even can make us fundamentalists, which is not the same as radicals. A fundamentalist doesn't mean that it becomes a fundamentalist, but it might not understand the roots of their fundamentalism. And the radical, it's the one that really tries to understand the roots of the problems. That's the distinction I see between someone that becomes a fundamentalist and those that are radicals. So, if information by itself and knowledge by itself doesn't make us wise, doesn't make us have a comprehensive understanding of the reality where we live, the built reality and the natural reality, both. So, and that matters a lot. That matters a lot because it just transforms us into tools and weapons for other people's agendas and goals. And this is very important. And this is to me what we need to overcome. We need to see through this blanket, this barrage of deception. This is we live in this web of deceit, and and we do not understand it. Most of us probably don't care about it, but it is important because manipulation is real. Perception manipulation to manufacture consent is real. Is not fiction. Those who benefit with the existing system, which means a system based on wealth accumulation, the pursuit of self-interest, the profit maximization, and private property concentration, it's at war. They are always at war with us. And why? Because they need to control our minds. Because they need to keep us confused, divided, in a state of deception. But they need to tell us, and this is the really trick, that whatever we think, whatever we choose, it comes from our freedom of choice, freedom of thinking, freedom of movement, And of course, we do enjoy some of it. It doesn't matter. If you live in a dictatorship or in what we call democracies, we always have freedom of thought. Because freedom of thought is exactly what we can do by ourselves. But in order that we are able to do it by ourselves, we need to go through the barrage of propaganda. We need to understand the web of deceit where we have to survive. Otherwise, how do you think? Or how can you believe that you are a free thinker? That your thoughts are free? Free from what? Are they free from manipulation? Do they come from a clean spring? An unspoiled spring? No. All our thoughts don't come from a void. They come from existing knowledge. And it can be poisoned knowledge. It is always poisoned or tainted. The concentration can vary. That can be more concentrated, less concentrated, can be more lethal, less lethal. Yes, that's for sure. But that's always there. Do you believe that I am totally free of being my thoughts are tainted? No. We call it biased, in prejudice. We cannot have. We always rely on prejudice. prejudice, pre-thought, ideas that are already existing in our brains, in our minds. Where they come from? Are they ours? No. They have been absorbed. They have been inculcated. We have been colonized. We are constantly being colonized, influenced, conditioned by ideologies, by narratives that from where we drink, okay, and feed our thoughts, and they become implicit memories, and then we believe, oh, these thoughts are mine. That's I came up with them. No, of course not. That's not how our minds work. Because we are a social species. We learn with each other. For the good or for the worse. That's how it works. That's why we need to be aware of those that in order to keep a system, a caste-based system that is unjust, unfair, it is dehumanizing, it does humanize us, it does the opposite. Therefore, it requires deceit. This is not, this is by default. It is a necessity to allow the system to go on, to keep going on. In order to use us as useful idiots, cannon fodder, and disposable peons, the elites, the few that control, that pull the strings of the system, they need to be at war with us permanently. This war never stops. It has many fronts. And because even among those that sometimes seem our friends, that speak to our hearts, okay, that we call them charismatic leaders, and so on and so forth, and we trust them, they are part of the web of deceit. That's why I always try to convey the message that this is not about leaders and heroes and saviors and all these kind of chosen ones that we are supposed to follow. It is about us becoming gaining agency, acquiring, developing agency, political, economic, cultural, because there is always a simple way to boil down complex ideologies. Complex systems. Not simplism. Of course, simplism is it's not good. That's for sure. But we can simplify that those even among us that have more difficulties in understanding how complex systems and how complex ideas and blah 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 work, it's always possible to boil it down into a simpler form. Because growing consciousness is a process. You know, it's the process by which old dominant narratives are replaced by other new dominant narratives. I'm not trying to say that new narratives are true and old narratives are lies. Not what I'm trying to say. It's just that we are responsible, we have to have the responsibility to develop the skills to understand logical fallacies, to learn critical thinking and analysis that based on what do we want. It's not about people, it has to be about values, principles, ideas. For what kind of society and civilization we want. What kind of life. What really freedom means. And how to have meaningful lives. Most people don't like to be used, or to become cannon fodder, or to be disposable peons. So, if we don't like it, if we despise it, why do we put up with a system that is exactly based on that? For profit, for control, for wealth accumulation, and for the concentration of private property, which is another form of control. For example, the theory or idea or hypothesis of the trickle-down economics, okay? If we allow those, the entrepreneurs, the investors, the innovators, create wealth, they are the wealth creators and the job creators, okay? That's how we have to assume them to start with. So if we allow them to create wealth, okay, and accumulate it, of course, if they create it for themselves, it's not for us. They create the wealth for themselves, all right? But if the wealth is created and and somehow it trickles down, okay? So this is called trickle-down economics. Is this a lie? No. That's the beauty of manipulation. It's always based on bits and pieces of truth, of facts. Of course, trickle-down economics works, but works for whom? It's not a universal principle. It benefits those who really serve the system. So it trickles down for some of us, not as a universal principle. And that is exactly the trick. Where did they sit? How they deceive us? They use an idea, and they frame it in a way to create the illusion that the society at large benefits with this principle of trickle-down economics. And we might not see it in our lives, in our individual, our family, or us as citizens, as individuals, but it works. It's maybe our fault, but that's a lie, because it's not supposed from the beginning to work like that, to benefit, to be a universal principle. It is supposed to benefit some in some fields, in some fields of economic fields, or whatever, but not to really benefit society at large. And this is why we need to understand that merit is not universal. Meritocracy is not a universal principle. It is a principle that applies to certain activities, certain fields, or people, or functions and roles that really benefit, that help those in the top to control the rest of us, to help them to accumulate more wealth, to help them to concentrate more power. This is what I call a web of complicity. Okay, this is to create accomplices, and to have that all of those involved in this process, they benefit in different levels and amounts, but they all don't want to lose what they are. That's the principle. That's an important principle that actually influences all of us. It really takes a huge toll on all of us, which nobody likes to lose what we have, what we already have. Property, wealth, stuff. Maybe we want to get rid of stuff that is not very important. But the bulk of the things that we take as important, we don't like to lose them. That's why the principle of the private property and wealth unlimited wealth accumulation and private property concentration is wrong. And that's why also the money as or capital, money and capital as a storage, a store of value, or especially money as store of value, needs to be also limited, because we are using not a digital, is not a virtual reality, something that only exists in the virtual reality. It's abstract. It's not a real thing. Money is not a thing. We can use things as money. Gold, or peanuts, it doesn't matter. Salt, you can use many things, feathers. You can use a lot of things as money. But money itself is a concept. It's part of a virtual reality. And we use, it's just like God. We use these abstract ideas that don't exist they are not part of the real life. We need to feed, we need food every day. We need shelter. We need time for ourselves. And all those things that are required for a good life, they are not abstract. That's why people get wrong if they don't understand that mind and body are only one thing. They are this holistic principle that spirituality is not separated from carnality. It's incarnated. And we need to understand it like that. Because we need to be humans here. We are spiritual beings here. We need to have societies and civilizations that humanize us, not dehumanize us, and have a fake moral system. And values and principles in one side and the reality in the other side. We cannot have an economy that works against society. That's what we have now. That's why the fabric of the society is being torn apart. And then we use the weapons of mass deception in order to scapegoating, to make us look, see there, our enemy is that those guys that come from wherever, or we see this. No. Again, this is the principle of the useful idiots, to transform us in useful idiots. And therefore, if we are useful idiots, we can be used as cannon fodder. Just imagine one thing. This war going on in Ukraine is an imperialist war. Okay? Those people that are used there as cannon fodder in both sides, it's not their war. You know? They are disposable pawns, all right? They are used in the name of a nationalist and patriotism that is weaponized. That work would never be possible if we didn't have this civilizational imperialistic paradigm. Because it would be us with agency, political and economic agency, that would not allow it to happen. Because the most important thing that human beings as social beings need to have is to create a culture that is resilient to be usurped by psychopaths and sociopaths, opportunists, megalomaniacs, and that's what we don't have. We have sophistication, technological and scientific sophistication. We have a lot of knowledge. We have very little comprehensive understanding and very little wisdom. And that's why we are so easily instrumentalized, so easily deceived. You know, by these dogmatic principles of like I used to give the title of this talking my walking, free lunches and meritocracy. You know, there is a lot that I could say about this, and of course that I don't pretend to be comprehensive. That's one of my principles that I really take seriously. We complement each other. It's not about being open to criticism. Constructive criticism is part of the process by which we together build knowledge, sound knowledge. Which means sound knowledge is knowledge that can be applied to transform reality, to become for a new society, for a new civilizational paradigm. The civilization I call ecological, holistic civilization, not just ecological. Because this is going to be weaponized again. Because words by themselves can have whatever meaning we want to give them. You know, let's think about that. Just think, you have a tree in front of you. A tree is a tree, okay? But for a logging company, it is money. For a nature lover and someone that understands is as part of an ecosystem, it's something else. So the same concept of tree, can be different things for different purposes. And that's why we should have, or we should at least work in universal, have kind of create a dictionary of universal value. I'm not talking about rights and I'm talking about values, concepts, principles. That allow us to know what we are talking about when we because otherwise, it's all these people that, of course, it is easy to find something that, I'm here having a spontaneous reflection or insights, okay? So I'm doing it as I am walking, and of course will be flaws, and there is things that need to be, but I'm trying to be honest, and I think that's the main, that's what matters, and I'm open to discuss it, because none of us owns the truth. That's why it's about ideas, not about authorities or heroes or leaders or or the wise and gurus and no, experts, and no, they know what they know, but they also are flawed, they are incorrect, their ideas are incomplete. We never are able alone to see the full picture. That's why we need each other inputs, and that's why we should not never take ourselves we should as the ones that know, because it's not how reality works. That's not how the human intellect works. Okay, that is it for today. Thank you for listening. I will be back soon.